All right, well, everyone, it is 6:05, so we will get going here. Again, thank you very much for joining us here today. My name is Amanda Wagner, and I am the Communications and Public Affairs Manager here for the district. The district needs to have sessions like these tonight. We had an in-person version last week, and we are delighted to be able to offer a virtual version tonight. And we're really here to hear what you have to say about our work in the community to address phosphorus compliance in Badger Mill Creek. So thank you for taking the time out of a Thursday night in December to be here. We're going to move to a presentation shortly. That will take about 15 to 20 minutes, but I do have just a couple of housekeeping rules before we get started. First, it looks like everyone has a name in the participant list, and that will just help us when we move into the listening session. If you don't, if you can take a moment to just right-click on your name in the participant list and put at least your first name, so we can call on you, that would be very helpful. We also ask that you hold your comments and feedback and questions until the listening session. Around 6:20, we'll move into breakout rooms, and those have been pre-assigned just to kind of take some of the guesswork out of that. And district staff will be leading and moderating these listening sessions, and they'll have just a couple other notes for you once we get into those rooms. All the microphones have been muted, and once the listening sessions begin, you can unmute yourself to speak, or you can place a comment in the chat. The public chat has been disabled, but you can direct your questions to the host, and they will help make sure those get shared in the listening sessions. And just as a reminder, you probably heard it, but the presentation portion of this meeting is being recorded. Now, if you are not able to stay for the virtual listening session, as I mentioned just a little bit ago, you can sign this QR code and be directed to our webpage where you can sign up for our email list. You can also go to madsewer.org/BMC-plus to sign up. And if you can't stay for the public listening session, or you just want to get more information, and stay tuned there. So thank you, everyone. And I'm going to turn it over for tonight's presentation to district's pollution prevention manager, Kathy Lake, and to our director of ecosystem services, Marty Griffin. So Marty, go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Amanda, and thanks everyone for joining us this evening for our listening session. I know Kathy and I have been looking forward to this opportunity to talk to you all and inform you about our initiative called Badger Mill Creek Project Plus. And that plus stands for Phosphorus Limits and Updated Solutions. And this is an essential project for the district because it's regulated by the Federal Clean Water Act and Wisconsin's phosphorus rule. And under these requirements, we must develop a phosphorus compliant solution for Badger Mill Creek. And that's one of the creeks that the district discharges into. So tonight's listening session is going to provide an opportunity for you to learn more about this Project Plus and create space for you all to share feedback in the listening sessions with Kathy and myself. And we'll do that once this presentation is complete. Next slide, please. So the district was established in 1930, and today we serve 25 different municipal communities, cover about 187 square miles, and we serve about 400,000 people. And our sewer system relies on gravity and a network of tunnels and pipes with lift stations that pump sewage up and over hills, and that gets the wastewater to our plant. And so in order to do all this, we have to own and operate 145 miles of pipe and 18 regional pumping stations. And what that all does is brings 36 million gallons per day of wastewater to our Nine Springs treatment plant. And that's about the equivalent of filling up Camp Randall Stadium about halfway up every day. And so once at the plant, we recycle all that wastewater into useful products. So in the course of 1 year, we get about 15 billion gallons of wastewater, and we turn that into river water, and that's discharged into our receiving streams like Badger Mill Creek. We also take the solids and recycle 36 million gallons of it as fertilizer on area farm fields. We also create biogas and other products. And a 9-member commission governs the district, and the commissioners that govern us are appointed by the customers that the district serves. So to experience clean water, we really need to find solutions that minimize even more phosphorus from entering our waterways. And that's really why Kathy and I and the district are here today, discuss ways we can address phosphorus that will help us improve water quality. Next slide, please. So phosphorus is an essential nutrient that's needed by most, if not all, living organisms. But the challenge with phosphorus is that when there's too much of it in our waterways, that's when problems emerge. So all the food we eat and the wastewater that comes to us has phosphorus from humans. And so when it gets into places where it shouldn't get, when there's too much that get in our waterways, it makes plants grow a lot more than they should, because phosphorus is considered a limiting nutrient for plants. It means the more there's phosphorus, the more plants will grow. The less phosphorus, the less the plants will grow. And so specifically for freshwater lakes and streams, we don't want too much phosphorus because that will encourage undesirable plants and algae to grow. When that happens, it causes algal blooms and other problems that can decrease water quality and habitat. So for freshwater environments, environmental regulations are in place to control excess phosphorus from entering waterways. And these regulations don't only protect the local waters and our immediate streams that receive our recycled river water, but also regional waterways that those waters flow into and the waters that those flow into. And those eventually end up in the Gulf of Mexico. And we know there's a big dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico due to excess phosphorus. So the part we play up here in our local area has an impact regionally and also nationally. Next slide, please. So the good news is that the district is really already doing a lot to decrease the amount of phosphorus that's in the river water that we make out of the wastewater. In fact, we remove about 96% of the phosphorus that comes to the plant through our biological removal system and our Astara system. And so we also help reduce excess phosphorus that comes in the waterways that runs off of yards, leaves, and streets, and also farm fields through our adaptive management project. And we're looking to do even more to reduce phosphorus entering our waterways through the project we're talking about today, Project Plus. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Kathy. She's going to give you a little bit more detail about exactly how we plan to do this through Project Plus. Thanks.
Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate this opportunity to talk about Project Plus and also to hear your thoughts and what you're interested in with this project. Can I have the next slide, please? So as Marty mentioned, we have named this project Project Plus. We have, under the Clean Water Act, water quality standards that we need to meet. And one of those is phosphorus compliance standards. So we have three main goals for Project Plus. The first is to achieve compliance with the phosphorus water quality standards. We need to do this. It's required. We have to do it. The second is that we have a shared interest with many of you to minimize the harm to the biology of Badger Mill Creek. Third, we also have a shared interest with many of you to maintain fiscal responsibility to the ratepayers and owner communities. The district is funded by all of you, and everything we do is yours. Next slide, please. So because phosphorus is a really challenging constituent to reduce even further, as Marty mentioned, we're already taking over 96% of the phosphorus out of the water, and we need to significantly reduce it, almost 70% more. So because it's very challenging to do, DNR provided us a compliance schedule in our permit. So the first requirement of that compliance schedule was last year, where we needed to do a status update. And then earlier this year, we needed to come up with a preliminary compliance alternatives plan. Currently, we're working towards a final compliance alternatives plan, and that plan is due next year, May of 2023. Once we have a final compliance option, we have up until 2028 to put that concept into action. Next slide. So when we looked at our preliminary compliance options, we have been working really hard. We dug into all the different types of compliance options we could come up with, and we really tried to see what could work and what was no longer viable. So when we were looking at preliminary compliance options, we looked at further optimizing our plant. We looked at modifying flow. that we send to Badger Mill Creek. We looked at water quality trading, adaptive management, adding a tertiary treatment system at the Nine Springs plant to further treat the water that goes to Badger Mill Creek, looking at applying for a variance or a site-specific criterion. Then we took each of those options and we really dug into them. We've been doing the work on this project. We found that our plant is very optimized right now, and there isn't a lot more that we could do without adding a filtration type step to further remove phosphorus. So plant optimization is, we've kind of gotten about as far as we can. We're still digging into modifying how much flow goes to Badger Mill Creek. The district has 2 effluent discharge points. About 8% of our flow goes to Badger Mill Creek and the rest goes to Badfish Creek. We have also been digging into water quality trading, and we're at this point, the DNR is requiring us to maintain any water quality trades near our effluent discharge location, which is already very developed. So that is not looking like a very promising alternative at this point. Adaptive management is also, the watersheds are significantly different than the Yahara, which many of you are familiar with in our Yahara Winds project, and makes adaptive management very challenging there. We are still looking at tertiary treatment and adding another treatment step. We found that we would likely be unsuccessful in obtaining a variance to the water quality standard for phosphorus. And we also found that a site-specific criterion is not going to get us far enough towards the goal. Next step, please. So as I mentioned, we're continuing to refine and dig into the remaining compliance options. We're hiring an engineering consultant to work on incorporating tertiary treatment into our current treatment plant. We've done a lot of work already, but we need further engineering to assess that option. We are also working with another consultant to assess the biological considerations of modifying the flow to Badger Mill Creek. As we look at coming back with a final compliance option, we're assessing this on a triple bottom line basis. We're looking at the environmental impacts of the options, the social impacts of the options, the economic impact of the options, so that we can find a solution that meets the goals of Project Plus and achieves compliance. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, we still have further steps towards compliance. We're working diligently right now to really dig into the options. We're here today to hear from all of you. We want to know what's on your mind, what you're interested in knowing about this project, so that we can take that back and make sure that we're answering those questions as we dig into our final compliance plan. So we want to incorporate the learnings and refine the potential compliance options. We commit to ongoing communication and engagement. As Amanda mentioned, there's a place you can sign up on our website so that you're kept informed as we have information to share on this project. Our goal is to return to our commission with a preferred alternative before our DNR deadline of May 2023. Next slide, please. With that, I will turn it over to Amanda.
Thank you so much, Kathy and Marty. So that concludes the information presentation for today, tonight, that is. And so we're going to be moving into breakout rooms shortly. So just a few things. Once I open the breakout rooms, you'll receive a notification to join your pre-assigned breakout room that looks like the image, something like the image on the left. It just depends on what system you're using today or how you're accessing the meeting. And then once you're in the breakout room, Kathy and Marty will each provide some additional guidance. But just one thing of note is that if you would like to be able to speak in your listening session, to raise your hand on the right side, I've provided a graphic. You click reactions and then raise your hand. And certainly if you want to just put information into the chat in your listening sessions, you are welcome to do that as well. There is no additional programming after the listening session. So you're free to go this evening once your listening session is complete, or you've shared your input, or just any time before that you feel like you've gotten what you have wanted in your participation tonight. So with that, I'm going to open the rooms, and you will go into one of two rooms with either Kathy or Marty for the listening session. So thank you all very much, and here we go.